Good morning, everyone. Today we are starting lesson 14, How Daddy Made a Stool. In this lesson, the narrator is describing how his father made a stool which was unique. Let's read. When Daddy was little, he made a stool all by himself. He never forgot that stool. There was probably not another one like it in the whole world. Zakhar Petrovic, the carpentry master, was sure there was not. They had a workshop at school, and Zakhar Petrovic taught the boys how to use saw and hammer, plane and glue, how to take apart what they had done badly and start over and over again and again until they had it right. He was a small, middle-aged man with steel-rimmed eyeglasses. His favorite saying was, "Well begun, half done." Sometimes he would add, "And a loafer is afraid of work." This is how he began his first lesson. "What is this?" "A hammer," everyone shouted. He attended a workshop and the carpentry master was Zakhar Petrovic. He told the boys how to use the material for carpentry. He was a strict teacher. If any boy made wrong thing, he had to make it again and again until they had it right. Zakhar Petrovic was an aged man and his favorite dialogue was, "Well begun, half done." Right, and this a nail. Right again. And what is this? A board. Good. Now the idea is to drive this nail into this board with one blow of this hammer. Any volunteers? Me. I can do it. Let me do it. There were many volunteers, but even the strongest boys could not drive the nail in with a blow. The Zakhar Petrovic took another nail, placed it on the board, and struck it. He did not strike it very hard. Everyone gasped. The nail had gone right into the board with one blow. You need a good eye and a steady hand. Is that clear? Yes, said little Daddy, and struck his thumb with all his might. He saw stars. The other boys laughed. There's nothing to laugh at, said Zakhar Petrovic. Do you think? I always hit the nail. Not at all. Sometimes I hit my fingers. Then I would get a smack from my teacher on my head. It was his way of telling me that he had hit the nail and I hadn't. That's how we were taught. But don't worry, I won't hit anyone. We will begin by learning how to make a stool. A little stool? What could be simpler? But you just try and make one. How much sawing and planing and gluing there is to be done, and how many times you have to take apart what you have done and start all over again. Oh, how much work, how much energy, how much skill and patience you need. Misha, little Daddy's great friend, was the first to complete his stool. Have a seat, he said proudly. Have a seat yourself, Zakhar Petrovic answered. Misha, looking important, sat down carefully. The stool cracked and fell apart. Misha sat on the floor while everyone laughed. You have done a quick job, but a bad one, Zakhar Petrovic said. Now start all over again and don't be in such a hurry, or the class will be laughing again. No one was able to make a good stool for the first time. Everyone had to do it all over again. Don't worry, kids. Moscow was not built in one day. You have to put in a lot of hard work, consoled Zakhar Petrovic. Varya Glazunova was the first one to make a really good stool. But she was a girl. True, her father was a carpenter. He had taught her how to use a plane and a saw. When Zakhar took his first class, he asked for the different tools. Everybody knew the answers. Then he asked all of them to drive a nail into a board. All children raised their hands and tried, but nobody could do it. Then Zakhar took another nail and drove it. In single attempt, he did it. Then he taught good eye and steady hand work together. Zakhar also shared his childhood experiences with the boys, how his teacher scolded him. He announced he would begin the class by making a stool. It was the simplest task. Misha, father's good friend, was the first one who made the stool, but it cracked. Everyone tried, but could not make a good stool for the first time. He said, "Don't worry, Moscow was not built in a day." Zakhar showed sympathy and said, "Lots of practice and focus is required to make anything." Varya was the first girl who made a stool. The carpentry master admired her. "It's an excellent job. You have put all the boys to shame," praised Zakhar Petrovic. The boys were terribly offended, but had nothing to say. Misha Gorbunov was the second to hand in his stool. The boys did not feel so bad anymore. After that, one by one, everyone started handing in their work. Little Daddy was the last to hand over his stool, but he was happy. His first stool was ready. "Go on, sit on it." Those were magic words from Zakhar Petrovic. Little Daddy sat down very cautiously. The stool did not even squeak. "Count your legs," Zakhar Petrovic said in a quiet voice. Little Daddy was very surprised. He looked down at his feet. There were two, as always. But when the boys and girls began to giggle, Zakhar Petrovic laughed too. To this day, Daddy can't understand how he managed to make a five-legged stool. But there it was. We still have it, and it still has five legs, not four. And he can still hear Zakhar Petrovic saying, "Five legs are no better than three. Start all over again." And Daddy thinks this is something you should remember no matter what job you are doing. After Varya, from boy's side, Misha, the narrator's father's friend, made the stool like this. Everybody made stools. Narrator stated that his father was the last one. Zakhar told him to sit on the stool. Little Daddy sat very cautiously. It did not crack, but when they asked him to count the legs of the stool, there were five. All other children started laughing, and the teacher said, "You have to make it all over again." At the end, narrator states that stool is still there with them with five legs, and his father says that we should always remember our mistakes and should not forget it, so that in future you will not repeat that. So the moral of the lesson is we learn from our mistakes. If we are learning something, we should not be afraid of our mistakes, but after knowing the mistakes, we should rectify it and we should not repeat in future. So children, today's homework is read this lesson with proper pauses.